All right, guys, Sean with Cutting Edge here. Here's another pro tip when you guys are installing James Hardie siding. So we've got this build here. We just kind of walked you through some of the best install practices for elite preferred contractors doing James Hardie siding. We talked about the butt joint staggers. We talked about making sure that you're nailing these things on the studs. And a lot of the other little differences that make a huge impact on the longevity of your siding. One of the other things I wanted to point out that you'll end up finding you run into, not very many people see this, and you always, anytime you see it, it's too late, right? So a lot of contractors will go through and they'll try to move fast when they're installing this. So part of what they'll do is, you see that the little stair step pattern there. That's just to make things easy as they're going through and installing the siding. But if you notice, there's caulking all over this wall over here. And part of that is because they're going through and they're face nailing, right? Now, what ends up happening is if they move too quick and they go through and they're high nailing or they're low nailing, what'll end up happening is it'll camp that board. And at the butt joints, what'll end up happening is they won't actually line up. And so a lot of times they have to go through and they have to punch in some extra nails in order to kind of tack it down. Now, that's okay here and there, but what ends up happening is you go too fast. If you don't install this the right way and you start face nailing the shit out of the siding, right? You mix fastening patterns, and what ends up happening is it holds the siding in place and it doesn't expand and contract the way it needs to. And a lot of times, after about 7 years, 10 years or so, we run into these issues all the time where when you have all of this siding that ends up getting a mix of face nail and blind nail, all of the corners ended up cracking. So you'll end up seeing a lot of times on like new construction out there. We see this all the time in CAMS. We see this pretty much anywhere where they're throwing up new builds. The siding installers, they just move too quick. They end up throwing extra fasteners in to kind of tighten up the siding, and it ends up causing cracking and issues down the line. We've done a lot of replacements on homes over the course of the years where, all of the corners are cracking out because that's where all of the fasteners are holding down the siding. It doesn't allow it to move. So all that stress just goes right in that area and cracks it out. And that is not something that's going to be covered by your manufacturer warranty. So, little details like that don't ever get brought up in bids. They don't ever get addressed during walkthroughs, or even if they do, it's not always something that ends up being followed through when the installers are out there. So, you see all this little pimple cream all over the wall over here, and you see this nice, gorgeous, smooth, shiny, ready to paint siding. That's the difference right there. You don't see it right now, but 7 to 10 years down the line, you want to make sure something that lasts. It's never in the 95%. It's always in the 5% of those details. So there's a little pro tip for you when you're looking at siding installs for James Hardie. Talk to you soon.